Okay, moving on. Part two, my review of One Taste by Ken Wilber. Um, let's jump right into it so I can probably try and finish this up in the next 15 minutes. Okay, again, I'm just reviewing sections that I highlighted that I think are interesting. When meditators first start developing, or rather noticing, this constant consciousness, they tend to go through a type of split mind awareness. On one hand, you are developing a capacity for strong meditative equanimity, a capacity to witness both pain and pleasure without flinching, without either grasping or avoiding. The perfect person employs the mind like a mirror. It accepts but does not grasp. It receives but does not keep. As this mirror mind awareness or constant consciousness grows stronger, the gross waking state becomes more and more dreamlike, in the sense that it loses its power to overwhelm you, to shake you, to make you believe that passing sensations are the only reality. Life starts to look like one great big movie, and you are the unmoved witness watching the show. Happiness arises, you witness it. Joy arises, you witness it. Pain arises, you witness it. Sorrow arises, you witness it. In all cases, you are the witness, and not some passing surface wave of silly sound and fury. At the center of the cyclone, you are safe. A deep and inward peace begins to haunt you. You can no longer manufacture turmoil with quite the same conviction. But that doesn't mean you can't feel desire, hurt, pain, joy, happiness, suffering, or sorrow. You can still feel all of those. They just don't convince you. Again, it's like being at the movies. At some point in the book, Ken Wilber kind of gives an example, like a metaphor of this being in this constant consciousness, or actually being kind of focused into a certain state of consciousness. But he says it's like a movie, and then later on he goes to describe like when you sit down and you watch a film, like the standard like film of an hour and a half, you're watching a television, which might take up, like this much of your span of vision, right? So you are looking at your computer screen now, and it is, this big, right? And but there's a whole world like out there. You look over here, you have a window. You look over here, you have your wall or whatever. And so if you're watching a film or you're watching this video and someone's like, hey, and you move your head, or you kind of break identification with what you were seeing, because the small screen kind of tends to encompass your entire vision. When you're watching a film, you don't really notice the stuff that's outside. And so he likens that to that's our waking awareness, right? He says once you realize, or once you kind of observe the witness state, which is the awareness that is aware of the individual, like the individual me, the individual Stephen Cronin. The witness that's aware of that isn't an object. It's pure non-dualist. It's not an object. It's not something that can exist in a relative realm. And so he says once you realize that there's more out there for your awareness to fondle around, that you kind of don't need to worry about this waking state. You don't need to get stressed out. You can get a lot of relief from, you don't need to get too wound up and too caught up in the world. The idea is when you're a kid and you're dreaming and you have this realization that your dreams aren't necessarily, they can't carry over, they're not real and can't carry over stuff in the realm. Like when I was little, I had a dream that I had like this computer, and I woke up and I couldn't find it because it was in the dream state. And I was so upset because what I had in the dream state was no longer in, or was not ever in, the physical reality state. And so I kind of woke up from the dream and realized that it was a dream. And so the idea is you kind of push your awareness through the dream state, you push your awareness to this causal, spirit, non-dual, ever-present, witnessing awareness state. And the idea is that maybe one day you realize that this kind of waking state of consciousness is a dream, just like your dream you had when you were a child is a dream. Anyway, thoughts and feelings, events, objects, whatever, that pop in and out of awareness don't carry through, don't transcend waking state, dream state, and causal state, because they're three separate states that your awareness resides in. In terms of the witness, this ever-present awareness that he's referring to. He describes this kind of process of thinking, and it's kind of trying to get a sense of the witness state in your awareness right now. And it's the idea of, I'm looking out the window and I see clouds, but I know that I am not those clouds. Or I am listening to the sound of my voice, but I am not the sound of my voice. But I'm aware of my thoughts, but I am not my thoughts. And you kind of take all these objects and you push them back, and you keep pushing back until you reach this kind of sense that the observer is observing everything that's arising, including your own body, your own sensations of your body, rather your thoughts of your body, of your environment around you. And so that's what he's referring to. I kind of thought that was akin to maybe derealization, the sense of that. That's derealization, if anyone's interested in looking it up. But it also, Ken Wilber actually does make reference to that, which is surprising to me. He says the experience is quite different. So, moving on. Let's see here. Okay. We have a huge war now raging between the first-person or introspective accounts, which emphasize the immediate introspection of the mind's contents as they display themselves to your own awareness, and the third-person or objective/scientific accounts, which seek to translate all of consciousness into objective entities, or its, disclosed by empirical science. Both of them overlook the importance of a second-person accounts, the intersubjective domain of linguistic structures, moral context, shared semantics, and cultural backgrounds, without which neither I nor it can be recognized in the first place. On the other hand, the humanities and cultural studies emphasize nothing but cultural backgrounds, as they attempt to reduce all subjective awareness of I and all objective knowledge of it to nothing but the cultural constructions of we. All three of these approaches are wrong, because all three are right, partially right, that is. And all three need to be brought equally to the integrative table. I'm going to stop there. In a sense, all he's saying is, look, we have first, second, and third person accounts of the world. All of these perspectives are correct. So to limit and say only third person objective science is correct would be false, because you're missing first and second person. To say that only first person introspective, interior, meditative accounts is what is reality would be false, because you're missing third person objective science. And all I'm saying is, we have people who kind of engross themselves into one perspective or the other and kind of claim that to be reality or truth. And he's saying, look, to do the best we can as human beings, let's integrate all the perspectives to try and get the best picture possible. Anyway. Alright, this I thought was kind of weird. This is kind of a question asked in terms of having a spiritual teacher and what the benefits are. And I'm just going to kind of read and see if I can interpret this. Okay. Part of the guru yoga is an intense bond formed between the guru, the teacher, and the devotee, the student, like between therapist and client, only more so, and that bond is an important part of the devotee's transformation and awakening. I suppose it's some sort of subtle transference process at work. So he's talking about like a subtle connection between the teacher and the student. Subtle refers to the dream state or the mind, emotion, sexual kind of feelings. I can find that kind of odd in terms of a connection between two people on the subtle level. It's not something that can really be measured. Again, measuring refers to third-person objective perspective. But perhaps it's something that's felt. That, again, would be first-person account. So again, you can kind of see how there's a dilemma between maybe scientists and people who are more engraved in first person. Sorry, it's like 4:06 a.m. He goes on, he's quoting his friend, also the, I think, creator of Sounds True. Her name is Tammy. So he says, okay, one at a time, said Tammy. In the transmission route, is there actually something that is transmitted like a force? Ken Wilber responds, in my experience of this, yes, definitely. When a person is fairly enlightened, they can actually transmit that enlightened awareness through a touch, a look, a gesture, or even through the written word. All right, I have a huge problem with this, and that is that I don't understand how any of these subtle transferences can be measured. These subtle lines of energy, these subtle bonds, I don't understand how they can be measured by third-person objective accounts. And any kind of first-person subjective accounts would be incomplete. So I would just venture to guess that because we're missing a third-person objective kind of view of subtle energy lines, then this kind of theory of transmission between someone who's enlightened and someone who's not can't necessarily be proven. Again, we want to take all of the perspectives into account. If someone does know of kind of a third-person objective scientific quantifiable study regarding subtle energies, let me know. Respond to this video. I'd be very interested to hear that. Okay. What if I can pause this while I look at my stuff? I suppose not. I don't see a button. Okay, this is interesting. Sunday, October 5, Denver. It's 86 degrees today, a record high for this time of year. So after a long morning's work, Marcy and I head out to Denver to wander the air-conditioned malls. I feel slightly disconnected from it all. There is such a sharp difference between witnessing and depersonalization, or derealization as I referred to it earlier. In the former, you are non-attached, in the latter, detached. In the former, you have a ground of equanimity from which you engage passionately in everything that arises. In the latter, you are numb, unable to feel passion for anything. In the former, you see everything with intense clarity and bright luminosity. In the latter, it's like you're looking at the world through the wrong end of a telescope. I have an unusual dose of the latter, and the latter. But enter the emptiness and find emptiness. Derealization or depersonalization is something that I have experienced 24/7, kind of chronically, or very chronically actually, not kind of, since about 2007, after, I don't know, just kind of being, I guess, in a certain state of mind for a month or so. And it's not an experience I've been able to escape. So I found it really interesting that, earlier in the book, I referred to the witnessing kind of as like, oh, okay, that sounds like derealization to me, feeling disconnected, feeling like the world is a dream state, whatever. But then Ken Wilber makes a distinction, hey, there's a difference between derealization and witnessing. In one of my books I have over here, I think I have over here, guess I wasn't able to pull that out as much. Oh yeah, here we go. This book called Feeling Unreal, Depersonalization Disorder and the Loss of Self. In this book, there's like a whole chapter on like what is the difference between being enlightened and having derealization. And this book kind of didn't kind of split the two off into separate entities so much as this book did in one taste. All right. Something on here in integral politics, again, looking at politics from integral perspectives. I don't necessarily think I have time for that. Actually, I might have, looking at what I have left marked to read to you guys. Okay, this is Q&A. You use the word cosmos with a K instead of cosmos with a C. Why? Ken Wilber responds, cosmos with a K is an old Pythagorean term, which means the entire universe in all its many dimensions, a physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. Cosmos with a C today usually means just the physical universe or physical dimension. So I might say the cosmos with a K includes the physiosphere or cosmos, the biosphere or life, the noosphere or mind, all of which are radiant manifestations of pure emptiness and are not other to that emptiness. Whoa. That explains cosmos with a K. The cosmos, or the universe, but including waking state, dream state, causal state, all of those three perspectives. All right, so at the end of the day, great commentary from Ken Wilber in his diary form on spirituality in general. Good book to check out. I loved it. 5 out of 5 stars for me. Take care. This book review is a little rough. Hopefully better ones in the future.